Welcome to SorWil Solutions, where we talk about things going on in our community. I'm Joe Wilson, President and CEO of SorWil Solutions. I'm here with Kathryn Hancock, our Director of Marketing, and a communications person from the community, Ken Miller. I always get that wrong, don't I?
Communications professional.
You're
most
somebody.
of the time. Yeah.
Our special guest today is Jen Anders with the Leavenworth-Lansing Chamber. She is the President and CEO. I got it right this time.
You did. You
The
did.
Leavenworth-Lansing Chamber. Well, thank you for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me. Happy to be
So
here.
you are new to the area. You've
Yeah,
been at the
newish,
chamber
yeah.
for how long now?
Just over to see. July was 2 years. So
2 years.
yeah, 2 years.
And so tell us a little bit, where'd you come from? For those people who don't know who Jen Anders is, which is probably very few, but
Yeah. So I've been in the. So this makes it just a little 2.5 years that I've been. I'm sorry, just a little over 7 years that I've been in the chamber industry. I've been a president, CEO, executive director. So I've been doing that for a long time. And then I also did homeowners association management. So the association field is where I've kind of learned my background. I got my CMCA out in Salt Lake City, managed about 10,000 doors out there. And then when I was ready to have a family, we moved back to Bonner Springs, which is my hometown. It's where I grew up. So I'm real familiar with Kansas City. And had my kids and stayed home. One of them was very, very sick. She had kidney 4 reflux. So every time she went to the bathroom, her little valve was broken. So I had to stay with her until she was able to go to school and be potty trained. And then, but I was bored to death at home. So I volunteered just about everywhere possible in my community. And it was my library board. I served the local library board for about 5 years and did district calendar committee, site council, all that kind of stuff. And so while I was busy, it was our local mayor that said the position was opening up for the chamber. And did I have any experience in that area? And I had worked with board of directors for a very long time. And so I said, yes, this is right up my alley. And I loved it. And so I fell in love with this industry. And so I was there for a couple years. And it was actually a couple of local families. It was the Pittmans and the Meffords who came to a lot of my annual banquets each year. And so when they were looking for the president CEO up in this area, they called me up and I got a call from Heather Padelli of all people. And so she said, would I consider coming up here? And I thought about it, and it was just really a lot to learn. I was excited to learn about the military, government affairs. There was a lot of new stuff. So it's a learning curve, but it's been a good one.
So you came from Bonner Springs, where you kind of had a very similar role to what you have now. You were the lead staffer for the chamber down there.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me, to start off, when you went from Bonner to Leavenworth, and obviously you're dealing with a lot of different businesses and personalities, what's the biggest difference between what you experienced in Bonner and what you're experiencing now in Leavenworth-Lansing?
So it's funny. There's a lot of similarities in the sense that it was a Bonner Springs Edwardsville chamber. So we had 2 sister cities that did a lot of work together. We had a big, heavy industrial base, similar to what I would think like Tonganoxie and Edwards, or there's parts of Leavenworth County that has a lot of industrial manufacturing, which Edwardsville has a huge manufacturing industrial base. The differences, I would say, is I did a big festival there every year. It was called Tiblo Days. We did that on a $0 budget. I was heavily involved in tourism and heavily involved in the school districts. Here, the difference is the city of Leavenworth takes on tourism all on their own. It's very separate. And the school districts are kind of do their own thing. It's not as connected. But another difference, obviously, would be the military. That was something I didn't know anything about. I still called it a base. So people learned real quick that I wasn't a local when I didn't call it the post. So the military's been a huge learning curve. The other thing that's very different is the UG there. So everything goes through the UG for Bonner Springs and Edwardsville. Wyandotte County has the unified government. Here we have like the city of the first. It's a little different. The elections are different here. And then also, I would say just having government affairs team is very different. We didn't handle things. It was a smaller town, so we didn't handle things that way. So I would say, and also the women's division, we didn't have a women's division or anything like that. We didn't have ambassadors. We just did it all in-house. So
Full disclosure, I am a member of the Chamber's Government Affairs Committee. Come there once a month and work on projects. I was very happy to see that we had a couple of state legislators at our last meeting last week. Talk a little bit about how it's been to work with state lawmakers. And I know there have been a couple of success stories, and I might be going back before you started, but with businesses, because they worked with the Government Affairs Committee, were able to get the ear of a lawmaker and actually help push legislation through.
Yeah. Thank you. We've actually had one success story since I've been here. Wilcott Brewery got to self distribute their own beer, so that's been really exciting. We got to have that happen. It was actually Sean and I were just visiting at his brewery one night, and I said, "What can we help you do? What are you doing?" And he kind of had this idea that he wanted to self distribute, and so I said, "Well, that's exactly the kind of stuff we want to help you do." So I sent one of our government affairs team down, and Ted Davis had a chat with him, and then Ted connected him with Tim Johnson, Representative Johnson, and so then Representative Johnson got a hold of him, and then they started talking and they connected, and the next thing you know, Sean was running with it, and I was making calls to CEOs all over the state of Kansas, and Sean had a list, and he was calling every brewery in the state of Kansas, and the next thing you know, we were following a bill, Senate Bill 511, and they followed that all the way through the state house, and that was very exciting. That was very exciting to see done. Even when I went to a conference this last year, we all went to dinner, and one of the CEOs stood up, and they all did a big toast to me and our little brewery in Leavenworth, Kansas, who got a bill passed for all the breweries, and so it was very exciting.
Tangible results.
Yeah, tangible results to see them, because getting a liquor, any kind of liquor or beer law passed in the state of Kansas is a huge success. Huge success. So we're really proud of that one.
It's exciting. And once SorWil is part of the chamber, I had another company in the past, J&J Tech, that was part of the chamber. I would say from then to now, the participation in the chamber since you've come on has doubled or tripled. It's amazing the things that you're doing. So, I'm very pleased to be part of that. Last week we spoke with Vicky Cause, and we were talking about the property tax issue, which is a big issue for everybody. And one of the things that came out during that discussion, that came out during my campaign, is that only 30% of the population, 30 to 40%, really pay property tax, and we carry it. And some of that is attributed to Fort Leavenworth being property exempt, as well as the schools and the prisons, the churches. Yeah. You and I talked about this a little bit the other day, and you talked about how much the military does for a community from an economic standpoint. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, sometimes when I talk to businesses and I encourage them to offer military discounts or be more involved with our military, you can hear some of it's kind of like there's a division between the locals or the military. And I hate to hear that. I hate to hear that there's a divide at all. We have a really strong military affairs council. And we also have, and also with our government affairs, we work real hard to do a lot of property tax forums, sales tax forums. We've offered a lot of that this year to try to explain how some of that works. Our superintendents have been heavily involved. Our county's been involved. Our city administrators. I would think, gosh, who do we have? We've had people from City of Lansing, City of Leavenworth, county commissioners, county administrator, all kinds of people come out and try to explain how the sales tax works, the property tax works. But even with our military affairs, I think just trying to understand the economic impact that they all bring to our community. Being the first city, we're only the first city, Leavenworth is only the first city because of the military coming here. And I just don't know that they understand the economic impact that they bring to our community. I mean, without them, we probably wouldn't exist. Because if you look at a map, it's funny, if you look at a map, you can actually see the little bite where Leavenworth is kind of taken out. So I think I've heard rumors, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we opted out of the 435 loop. And I don't know if that's because of the prisons or because of the military, but that's the story that I've heard, is that we actually opted out of the 435 loops, which is really kind of funny to me. But the thing that people don't understand is because of the CGSC school is about 1,500 families come in here every year. So there's a chance to really capitalize for businesses if they pay attention to who's coming and just consider that they've got brand new clients. I mean, they could just never run out of clients if they just appeal to them every year. And then the other thing that we really have that we can take advantage of is with the Army, the MTC, the Mission Training Center for the National Guard, is we've got 350, 250, 150. I mean, there's new people coming in to train there all summer, every week, every other month. I mean, so if we're paying attention, I mean, if you put out a little sign outside your business that says, welcome, bonjour, British, or whoever, just pay attention to who's coming. I mean, you can really get some people in your restaurants or in your businesses if you know who's coming in. So there's a lot of opportunity there, especially the hotels. The hotels are full all the time. I mean, we're raking in a lot of bed tax money here. So I think with 50% rentals, you just have to pay attention to what's happening in your community. And not only that, but since I've been here, our spouses club, which is really incredible. My first year here, I remember going to a spouse club dinner, and I think there was a couple dozen at that meeting. And then now, I mean, they're over 300 strong, and these women and men are just phenomenal. The way they give back to our community, they get out. They've got different sub clubs, so they're getting into restaurants. They're volunteering in our civic groups. They're they're patronizing our businesses. I mean, they're playing in the pickleball courts. They're going out into the community and really doing a lot for our just for everything, I guess. I don't know what the best way to say it.
I think you're painting a very good picture and explaining like what the fort and its people, the impact on the economy when it comes to businesses and community overall.
Community, yeah.
But I know there is concern, and I think they're making a little bit of headway towards alleviating this concern. The governments need to be funded to provide services, which include services to the fort. And because they're a federal institution, there's nothing set up for that. And I know Commissioner Culbertson is working on having discussions with the fort to have the fort chip in for ambulance service. Right, kind of a pilot program there. And I don't know, there has to be negotiations, so you don't know how much that's going to be. But it seems to be a step in the direction of, hey, the fort realizes governments need a little bit of help. If they're providing us with services, maybe we can chip in for that. So you're balancing it with the economic impact for the fort has on businesses here, sending people, buying things, whatnot, participating. But there is that flip side that the fort does receive a lot of fire protection, mutual aid, things like that. So I think that's something the chamber obviously needs to be aware of. I know the Government Affairs Committee is aware of that. As a chamber, you do see that as a chamber staffer, you do see how important that is. But the government institutions are also, the local government institutions are taken care of as well.
Right. So like I'm just trying to understand like the firehouse that they're trying to get funding to get paid for, that really old one that the fire truck doesn't pull into all the way. So I'm just trying, like it's an old, because we've been working with Senator Moran and Senator Marshall to try to help get that funded. So does that, because the cities and the county doesn't pay for that because it's federal, right? So who?
You're getting into gray area that I'm not completely up on, admittedly. But I know the ambulance service was one where ambulances would run to the fort if need be, but the fort wasn't contributing to the health department, which runs EMS here as well. Again, small, probably not a huge amount when you're looking at all the budgets, but I think that's the issue, is there are services provided by local governments, whether that's Leavenworth or Leavenworth County, to help not only in times of need, but I think overall help the fort. Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
So, sure, that makes sense. So then who is responsible for like the Blue Bridge and stuff? Who funds stuff like that? Does Kansas and Missouri split that?
Okay, you're talking about the Centennial Bridge.
Yeah.
Those are state, and that's going to be replaced, obviously. KDOT, because it's the KDOT bridge, pays for that, right? Okay. But the fort gets benefit, obviously, from that for transportation purposes. So,
Going back
these are things I always wonder.
Yeah, going back to the EMS, Kathryn and I, during my campaign, had the opportunity to talk with Jamie Miller with the health department, and the number of calls that they run on Port Leavenworth is probably a lot more than you really think. It's substantially more than you think. Yeah. And so he has turned that into pretty much almost a self-sufficient organization. It gets some funding, but not as much as it had in the past. The boost that they would get if Port Leavenworth was to contribute to the health department, and that would be huge to their budget. It will also help reduce some of the burden on the county taxpayers.
Well, I know, not to get off on the health department, but EMTs, they're constantly having issues trying to keep those positions filled because people go on to Johnson County or KCMO or wherever because they can get paid more. So perhaps that money, if the fort was chipping in, might also help with being able to offer salaries that are a little bit more competitive. And Jamie Miller would be the expert on that. We're certainly not. But that's along the lines of how the fort can help, since we're helping the county is helping the fort.
Yeah. Well,
Another
that's
thing
good.
that came out last week when we spoke with Vicky was that, the Michaels organization on Fort Leavenworth,
Yep.
that's a lot of privatized housing, but not soldiers are not the only people living in those housings now. Civilians
No,
are
yeah.
able to live in those housing, and they're living property tax free, and that private organization is benefiting from that. So
Yeah.
is that something that we should be looking at as a community to receive some type of benefit from an organization like that?
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that. Whoever made that contract for that long should be fired. whoever 50-year isn't it a 50-year
Hey,
contract?
it's a long one.
Yeah.
It's
That's a ridiculous contract. I am glad that the people in charge of Fort Leavenworth now have really been fighting hard for that history. We're really lucky that Colonel Mosier, who's the garrison commander, is such a historian, and General Beagle is phenomenal. They've held Michael's feet to the fire, and they've brought them out here. They're getting a ton of funding now to start rehabbing a lot of that. And Colonel Mosier presented a lot of that in the SEF this year and really talked about all the changes they're going to be. They had Michael's at the SEF. So they talked about all the changes and all the improvements that they're going to be doing. So they're dumping a ton of money into that historic housing, but they do kind of juggle with, what's worth valuable, what's keeping and what's not. And I mean, they have to take all the complaints, but
And Michael
we don't
took a
want to
lot
lose
of-
our history. Yeah.
A negative publicity
Yes.
for a lot of the older homes,
Right.
historic homes on Fort Leavenworth, and them not being up to standards. So
The tax revenue question just always seems, no matter who we talk to sitting in your chair, the tax revenue question is one of the main things that we end up talking about. And we are reading in the paper now that there are obviously multiple economic development organizations, not only in Leavenworth County but throughout the Kansas City region. One of the most recent articles and news stories has to do with the funding of the Leavenworth County Port Authority and, by extension, the Leavenworth County Development Corporation, who I know you work with as an organization that you have different missions, but they're somewhat similar missions. They're looking at a public vote. They haven't talked about details yet. I don't think they've fleshed them out yet, but they are looking at a public vote to try and set up a revenue stream for the Leavenworth County Port Authority and, by extension, LCDC as well. I guess first, your reaction to that. I know you were at a meeting where that was discussed recently. What's your reaction as someone who is the chief staffer on an economic development organization, but one that happens to be different from LCDC and LCPA?
So, I have conflicting thoughts. Personally, as a chamber, when I shouldn't say personally, it's none of it's personal, but as a chamber, we don't believe in getting public funding. We like to stay neutral. We like to be a business advocacy organization because we think public funding sways what you do. We don't want to have anyone's hands up our sleeves, so to speak. We want to just stand up for our businesses and do what they want us to do. And that way we can stay completely unbiased. So that's where we want to be. And we just want to stay in our lane that way. We think once you start receiving public money, and I think there's a lot of economic development organizations that believe that same mission. So when I came up here, my goal was to partner with LCDC. I always had a bigger dream of being like some of the more successful cities in Kansas. When you look at, matter of fact, Tim Cowden had posted. Tim Cowden is the CEO of KCADC. And not long ago, if you look on his LinkedIn, he posted 10 or so of the top communities who are producing in Kansas. And it was Olathe, it was Lenexa, it was Shawnee, it was DeSoto. It was
Johnson County.
It's Johnson County, but every single one he posted had a joint chamber EDC. They were partner organizations. So so I thought my whole idea in taking this position, because I had a couple offers at the time, was I looked at Leavenworth County and I thought there was so much opportunity to partner our chamber with our EDC. And that was my goal. And I made it very clear. I've made it clear from the very beginning, and LCDC knows, and the chamber knew. And I made that very clear. So I just thought there was a lot of room for that. And for whatever reason, that's not what they want to do. But I think there's a conflict of interest in taking public dollars and then also taking membership dollars, because you're kind of double dipping. And also, if you're going to take the public dollars, and then the problem with us being divided like that is we're double dipping from the businesses as well. And so when you're not working together, there is a lot of overlap. And so I just think, why work harder, not smarter? I mean, the business, I just think the businesses are getting double timed. And so it's a tough question to answer, just because I really don't want to break down any relationships. I think there's, like, we have a government affairs committee that's, the chamber's been in existence for over 100 years. And I understand that, you know, coming in behind some things is a really hard challenge to overcome, but you can't do it without the power of teamwork, and you can't do it without, you know, working together. And we were going that direction for a while. I think there's still potential to go that direction. I just think somewhere along the lines, people stopped believing in the mission, and there's a lot of the groups up here are kind of siloed, and, you know, we work real well with Main Street. We did work real well with LCDC, but I think we still can. I think there's a lot of room for. I think there's a lot of room for it. I just think we've got to be on the same page. So, but I think asking businesses to pay for multiple memberships and then also still taking tax dollars is just a tough ask. And asking the cities and county to pay. I just think that's a tough ask. I mean, especially post-COVID.
Do you, and this gets back now just about the chamber, but, you know, obviously I serve on a chamber committee as a member of a public entity, City of Lansing. You've got membership from the city of Leavenworth, multiple cities. Do you ever find conflict? Because I know as somebody who might be talking to our state lawmakers, might have a different opinion about what's good for the area than some of your businesses might. Have you run into that at all?
Yeah, matter of fact, we just had a meeting at Government Affairs the other day. There's someone was there lobbying for something that's probably going to be proposed as a bill. And I made it clear at the table, the person was looking for support from Government Affairs to, the person was looking for the legislators to back something that's going to be proposed as a bill. And I just said, this is interesting. We are a membership advocacy organization, so I'm going to have to get buy-in from the majority of membership. And so I've just been reaching out to membership individually, and especially those that would be most affected by this particular bill.
But you've come across competing interests before within the organization itself. So that's where you have to be a diplomat.
Yeah. Right. So I have to be a diplomat and try to figure out where the majority is gonna lie. And so it's challenging. And so if it kind of gets too half and half, then we won't take a position and we'll just stay silent about it. But if it's going to be heavily weighed out, then we'll have to kind of do some mediating in between and just say, well, hopefully we can go back to the one person and say, this is why it's not good for our membership. And I hope you can understand, and maybe they'll back off of it. I don't know that this one will, but we'll see. Hopefully it'll not be proposed as a bill, because it's not starting to sound, at least from most of the membership I've talked to, it's not sounded.
So you've been doing the polling already.
I've been doing the polling already, and it's not sounding well received yet.
Yeah.
Taking a step back, I just want to give you kudos, because your staff is literally just you and one other person.
Yeah, we're short-staffed by probably 2 full-timers.
I just can't imagine doing all that you do and being everywhere you are, just as you.
Well, you know, it's not just me. Lauren, I feel like Lauren is really like 3 people in one.
She is.
She is incredible. And I don't know how she does all the things she does.
She's very responsive. That's what I appreciate.
She's very behind the scenes too. Yeah.
And I think I've honestly think I've gone crazier since I started working here. I think I'm more harebrained than ever, and more. I think I've actually gone crazy since I started working here. I don't know. Sometimes I can't tell you what I ate for lunch, and I'm late to everything. But Lauren is, she's highly educated. She's a military child. And so she's very adept to change, flipping on the fly. She's brilliant. She's got multiple degrees. She's just really intelligent, highly intelligent. So we're very, very lucky to have her. And then also the chamber stands on the shoulders of volunteers. So our board members, our committee members, all the volunteers are just really, the community at large of Leavenworth County is really, that's been one of the most exciting things to find up here is how many people just have volunteer hearts. I mean, your organization alone, the things you guys do and post for the civic organizations, it's just really phenomenal how many people have such giving hearts. Your city manager, city
Yeah.
administrator,
Yeah.
I mean, like I cried.
Yeah.
I cried.
For those that don't know, he donated a kidney a few months back, and to somebody who is not related to, who didn't even know.
Yeah,
So,
didn't even
yeah.
know. Didn't even know. I mean, there's been things that have been so touching since I've been here that I just can't get over the people that are so giving. So, especially I don't know that I would have made it through this last political cycle had there not been so many good things happening around us. So it's been really an honor for me to be here. And just see all the positive things happening all the time. And not only that, but like, I know I keep saying about the military because people just don't like the military. For some reason, it's like they either love them or it just feels kind of polarizing up here. But every time I'm on post or learn something about a military person or they share something, I walk away with something really phenomenal, like something that's kind of like one of those, God, I hate saying an Oprah aha moment, but it's an aha moment. Like, we took our leadership team up there and we were just learning another thing about the Command and General Staff College. And one of the professors, the new provost, who's never been, they haven't been super involved with us, but he had his whole team teach us about the college. And one of the professors was saying, well, think about it. You all get to, because I was talking about how educated they are and they actually go back and study doctrine and they study past wars. And I'm like, why are you trying to figure out why you did that? And he said, well, think about it. You get to do your job every day, but our military doesn't get to practice every day. It's not like they're at war every day. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, duh, like it just kind of hit me in a new way. So that's why they're so educated.
I feel like you have to really be up there to like really take it in. I used to work up there for Michael's Housing.
You did? As
a housing inspector. And you really just don't appreciate them until you're really in that scene.
Yeah. It's really, I'm just always so impressed. Just the resiliency they all have. And,
When we kind of started this, you said, that's our fort up there. Talk a little more about that.
Yeah. So that was another thing that really blows my mind. So General Beagle, he has two things he says all the time that always hit me. So one thing he always reminds people is he's like, this is your military post. He's like, you can come on all the time. I mean, I guess post 9/11 is when they shut down all the militaries, but he's like, you can come on post anytime you want. You just have to get approved, but you can apply online now. There's a process that you can just do it ahead of time. So we've got a link on our chamber website. You can do that. But you can also just go up to the visitor center anytime and get approved, as long as you're not a felon or have any outstanding tickets. So you can always go on post. You can schedule to play golf. You can, there's all kinds of things you can do. You just can't use their PX or shop from their PX, but you can go into
in the food court though.
Yeah, you can go in and eat at the food court or buy a cup of coffee from Starbucks.
Right. Yep.
So, but you can schedule time on the golf course and play on the golf course, but you can always go up to the cemeteries. But they're there for you. That's our military. So he always says things like that always hits me. I'm like, oh yeah, they are our military. So one time I was texting him and I'm like, so does this mean I can text you because you're my general? So don't take that too fast. The other thing is that he always says is if you go and you listen like they do, get to know your world. So the chamber has a program called Operation International. And so one thing that we really try to do is foster these international relationships because they welcome all these high-level officers that come here every year to study because they write all the doctrine for the military. So this is like the intellectual center of the Army, and people just don't really know that is happening right here in Leavenworth, Kansas, So they write all this doctrine, and so anytime they have like a get to know your world or something that the public can come up to, or a ceremony or something, he always thanks people for their time. And he always says, the best thing you can do is give someone your time because you can't get that back. And he says it before every speech. And I always think, yeah, anytime someone gives me their time, I always think, thank you. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. So I'd never take people's time for granted now because I always am thinking about that.
As we kind of close out this segment and move on to something else, just take a minute businesses that are out there that might be watching that aren't part of the chamber. Why would they want to join the chamber? How do they join the chamber?
The elevator
Real
speech.
quick.
Give us the
elevator
elevator
speech.
speech.
The elevator speech. So the point of the chamber is to think about things that they're not thinking about. So their job is to run their business and not have to worry, not have to be at everything. And that's why we have a government affairs team. That's why we have, people thinking about, women's division or military affairs. We're trying to do the things. We've got opportunities, so wherever they fit in. So it depends on what they're looking for, but we've got tons of opportunities. If they want to be seen, we've got opportunities to be seen. If they want to just be involved in, we've got the opportunities. Our website has different ways and different. We want to know what they want, and then we'll find the places for them to fit in. So we want to work around them and their desires, but we can find a place for them that works best for their schedule or best for their needs. So we're not trying to fit them into any kind of box. We want to find out what their needs, but we want to do things so that they don't have to. So we just want to talk to them, find out what it is that they're looking for, but we'll figure it out and then work with them. So that kind of is a bad answer, but the chamber is flexible, and the chamber is advocacy. So that's kind of the best answer I can give them. But it comes back to what they're looking for, and so we're connected, and we just want to help in any way that we can.
Do you want to talk about your app?
Oh, and we have an amazing app. One thing we noticed when we got here is we had a hard time figuring out what was going on in the county and how to find a calendar to the whole county. We loved Lansing's, and we loved Leavenworth's, and we loved the CVBs, and there was just so many different places to look. So we wanted to create something that everybody could find. So we have an app. It's called the Community Clicker, and anyone can download it. You can get it off the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. It's free with code 765, I think. Wait, I have it on the front of here. It's 765. Yes, 765. You can also get our new business directories, but you can download that, and then there is a business directory, there is a calendar, anything happening in the county, and anyone can go and submit events as well. So you don't have to be a member to submit events. That anyone can do that, and then you can find anything happening, and you can just scroll along and find anything going on in the county and find all of our members in there too. So it's pretty handy.
All right, I'll give you one final nudge. You guys have an event coming up, a big event coming up in
February.
We do. We have a huge event. It's our annual banquet. It's February 21st. It is right outside Fort Leavenworth at the MTC. It's the Mission Training Center. If you haven't seen it before, it's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And this year's theme is going to be super fun. It is. It's Harry Potter and the Chamber of Commerce. I didn't create this theme, but people are getting super into it. So we encourage you to come and have fun. And you can dress up or not dress up, but we have some surprises planned, as we always do.
Thank you so much. It's really awesome. Now we're going to kind of shift to a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more fun theme of what's on your mind. And so we kind of go around the table, kind of talk about what you're thinking about this week, maybe not necessarily business related, but, really kind of what you're thinking about. I always like to start with Mr. Miller. And what are you thinking about, sir?
Well, I am going to be getting on a plane here in the next 3 or 4 days, heading home, which is New York for me, and see my 93-year-old dad and my sister and her family. And it's the holiday season. One of the things that I want to do with my dad, and I've kind of prompted him on this so he can start thinking about it, but I want to sit down and record our conversation and ask him about family history that he's seen through his eyes. I've tried to do this once before, and he got very emotional like 10 minutes in, and we had to kind of cut it off. And this was like maybe 10 or 15 years ago. So I got to figure out a way to not get that extreme a reaction from him when we talk. But, we're talking about, I think maybe our generation and generations younger don't appreciate the history that's within our own families. And I want to have something, because who knows what we're going to remember 10, 15 years from now, just up here. And I'd like to have it, recorded and to share with people that are going to come after me, in my family. So that's what I'm thinking about.
Do you have a list of questions that you're working off?
I did that the last time, and I'm wondering if that's what kind of intimidated him a little bit. I'm going to kind of do what I just did at this podcast. It's going to be based on what we hear and the interaction. What does he want to talk about? And then I think he'll be more comfortable that way.
Love that.
When my father passed, we did something very similar.
Made a video.
We made a video that we shared at his funeral, but I did it not so much for the history. I wanted my father to have the last word going out, and he loved to talk about things, and he loved to tell stories, and I really wanted him to be able to have the last word of it. So, kind of, I've been thinking about something similar. My mother, who is 87 years old now, is starting, to see a little bit of a decline. When we're trying to cherish those opportunities we have to spend with her. She lives with us. And so I've also been thinking about doing that video and having her say her goodbye so that she can also have the last word.
Right.
Maybe not as altruistic as you and the history there.
But like Kat's kids, right? I say plural. I'm sorry. It's one at this time,
It's one
right?
right now.
But I mean that's something that
No
you
pressure.
show your
Yeah.
grandchild,
Yeah, I
and
can
it's
see
going to
like
be
that.
great for them to see maybe when they're 10, 15 years old and can understand that, right?
Mhm. We even used
Video of my mom.
his video of his dad. Like I got his my grandmother a teddy bear from Build a Bear with
Yeah.
his voice recording in it. And
Oh,
she listens
nice.
to it every night.
Yeah,
So
Or,
Those die
yeah.
eventually.
Those, yeah, she
I
just
just
replaced it.
replaced it.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah.
Mine died. And the books died too, because I had one of my dad and
Aw.
that book stopped working.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, he's still alive. The kids, I don't think they want to. But I wish I had one of my mom. I wish I had I wish I had a video of my mom. I don't
Yeah.
have anything of my mom. Yeah.
Kathryn, what's on top of your mind?
A little light-hearted, or a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was supposed to
Yeah.
be lighthearted. You went super deep.
So yeah.
Last week, we did a ribbon cutting for the Red Hibiscus.
Oh yeah.
They're a juice bar in town, and I think everybody should check them out. They got really good stuff.
So good. Aren't they
Yeah,
good?
they're so good.
And
I just
Lydia's
had 'em for
wonderful.
breakfast. Yeah, Lydia's wonderful.
Lydia's incredible. They got
Rebecca's
space down there
great.
if you want to meet or have a meeting. It's a huge space. It really is awesome.
Say
Yeah.
the name of the bowl.
The acai bowl.
Acai.
Yes.
Acai bowl.
Yes.
Yeah, they're
So good.
So good.
I also want to give a shout out to Tenpenny, who has new ownership.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Romines now, they're redoing that, and that's an incredible space.
It's beautiful.
They're incredible people. They do so much for the community. And so
Another
we are
giver.
trying to find ways
Another
to
giver.
support them. And so it's under new ownership, and they're making huge improvements. We were in the other day looking to do some work for them, and I was just amazed.
They're open now, right?
They're open now.
Yeah.
I think they were
They're
closed the last
staying-
couple days.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
For the
they're staying-
Yeah,
floors.
they've been staying open. I
they've
thought
been
they were
staying
closed
open.
too,
They've
but
been
no.
doing it after hours. They don't want to let any of their staff go without paid days, which is really nice.
Yeah, Ken said when they bought it that he wanted to make sure they stayed employed and
Stayed open.
and he wanted to make sure that that was in the community,
Yeah.
and it was incredible. So once again, if you have an opportunity, visit the new Tenpenny. I just want to throw that out there.
Ken and
as a
Carly
free
Romine.
shout out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jen, what's on your mind?
I'm just, I around the holidays, I'm just very grateful. I'm grateful for the people in my life. I'm grateful for my children. My girls are, I've just been watching them get ready. Violet missed the bus this morning, but she probably gets that from me. Let's be real. But my girls are, I watch them as they grow. They're starting to share my clothes. I
Nice
just,
part.
Did they ask first?
Feeling their mom's clothes.
yeah, mostly. But like this week was Spirit Week, and my daughter was like, some of my clothes are at Dad's. And I thought, good thing you fit my clothes. So she put on my ugly sweater, and she was so
Aw.
happy. And it was just, I just love having them, and I love them so much. And so I'm grateful for my girls, and I'm grateful for my board. Like we had our board meeting on Friday, and one of them stayed after, and we finished out our bylaw updates. And I was thinking, after our government affairs meeting, I thought that was a great government affairs meeting. And I keep thinking, like, I'm just very lucky to work with, and Lauren is wonderful. I'm just very lucky. So I just have been counting my blessings. Sometimes I get the blues, but around holidays, and you'd think this year of all years, like I'm kind of not in my house, but this year I've just been thinking I'm very, very lucky. So that's what's on my mind.
Good.
Well, and that was SorWil Solutions. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jen, for being here.
Thanks for
I
having
really
me.
appreciate it. And next week will be another episode. I'm not sure who the guest is going to be. It might be a couple of people. So pay attention to the Facebook page. And if we
Stay tuned.
stay tuned. Yeah, good.